It's summer 2018, the May 2018 tube map is here. They've added TfL rail out to the west, but there was another train service that changed during May 2018 and the major timetable change, and that was the Thameslink core. 24 trains per hour. Admittedly, when it's running, they've had a few problems through the middle of Zone 1, and yet it doesn't appear on the tube map. Why is that? So to help talk about this, I've delved through my big box of old tube maps. I knew it was worth keeping one of every tube map back from the 1980s, and I've got one here from 1988. This is actually when the tube map wasn't called the tube map, it was called the Journey Planner. And it's interesting to note, and I'll do a cutaway screenshot to it now, that the Thameslink core, this was the year that Thameslink was introduced in 1988, is shown in yellow with the parallel lines on this map from Kentish town down through to Elephant and Castle. Note also that the Waterloo and City line is on there, but that's before it was London Underground TfL owned, so that's shown as a national railway service. And also the line between Moorgate running through Essex Road up to Finsbury Park is also shown on this map. So when Thameslink was first introduced in 1988, it was shown on the tube map, Journey Planner. We're going to roll forward a year. This is the tube map from December 1998. Again, I'll do a cutaway image to it now. Now, what's interesting is that on here is that the North London line is shown. The North London line between Richmond and Stratford has got a bit of a potted history in itself. There were times when back in the 1970s, London Underground didn't put the North London line on the map, and local campaigners actually went to tube stations and stuck up their own stickers on tube map posters at tube stations to put the North London line back on the map. But here, in 1989, it is shown, and Thameslink is shown, again, this time in white, running down from Kentish town to Elephant and Castle and London Bridge. The Jubilee line there also started to be constructed. So this is December 1998, and this is the last time, almost 20 years ago, that Thameslink ever appeared on a tube map, and it is called a tube map by now, because in the next edition, let's roll on, this, it's got the same cover, but the date is different. It's April 1999, and if you look at it, again, here's a cutaway image of it, the Thameslink core on there is not shown, and what's interesting is that the North London line has also gone, and then also the line from Moorgate up to Finsbury Park is gone. It's just showing pure tube services, well, and DLR, but we'll get onto that in a minute. And we'll move on to one more map. This, now announcing the new Jubilee line being open, is the November 1999 map. And what's interesting here is that the North London line is now back on the map, but the Thameslink branch still isn't. And Liverpool Street to Finsbury Park also not shown on there. So what's going on? Well, that was 1999. What happened just a few months later in the year 2000? Year 2000 is when Transport for London, TfL, were formed, and I think they knew then, there were plans early on that the North London line, Stratford through to Richmond, would be taken over, brought into the TfL family and become the London Overground. So was it a political decision? I suspect it was, to leave it on the map and to take Thameslink off. That is the reasoning for today's tube map. If you look at this again, it's the new tube map. Pick it up, it's in all good tube stations now. What this really shows, and what it has then showed for the last 20 years, is just TfL services. It's a good argument. Why should TfL show railway companies, rival railway companies, that's the weird thing, of other services? Why would it show a route from Kentish town down to Elephant and Castle, which is in effect competition to the Northern line? That is a video which I should make at some point. I should get two of us. One of us should go on the Northern line and one of us should go on Thameslink, have a race, Top Gear style, as it were, between Kentish town and Elephant and Castle, and see which is quicker. So yeah, for me, it's purely a political decision. The fact that it says tube map, it shouldn't even be called tube map anymore. I've made this argument before, I'll say it again. The tube map really should read TfL map or Map of TfL services, because that's all it shows now. It shows the tube, it shows the overground, it shows the DLR, it even now shows the trams. That's another strange argument for this. There are some stats on screen right now. When you think of tube, you know, in its colloquial form, just refers to the underground. But only 60% now of what is shown on the tube map is actually tube services. This relates to the video I put out the other day about why you shouldn't call Crossrail a tube line, is that some people think, well, no, you know, the average passenger, they don't really care. If it's on the tube map, they see it as tube. There was the guy, again, that just said he was on the orange tube line. To him, the London Overground is the orange tube line. He sees the overground as a tube, even though it's not. So, should Thameslink be on the tube map? Again, yeah, from the TfL point of view, they'll be like, no, it's not a TfL service. Why would we put a competitor service on our map? But again, to a regular passenger, they just want a map of all railway services in London, which is why that large fold-out paper map exists, which is called the London Rail and Tube Service map. It used to be called the Oyster map. Here's an old image of that. And what's interesting about that is that that ties into a really good argument from TfL. Let me get my Oyster card. Or contactless. And what's interesting about the tube map, the TfL map, is that it's like TfL's ecosystem. If you tap in at any one of these stations using Oyster or contactless, and you then tap out within that map, you know that you can just use Oyster or contactless. The argument from TfL is that if you put, say, the Thameslink core from Kentish town down to Elephant and Castle, actually that's not the extent of that line. It obviously goes much further north, up to Bedford and Horsham and Peterborough now, and then much further south to Brighton and all the places down south. So an argument is that if you just rely on the tube map with your Oyster card or contactless, then you know that you can travel anywhere on that map just by using your Oyster card. And the minute you start to add other services, it gets complicated to the passenger that's not in the know. However, surely the time has come again, and this will happen when Crossrail's Elizabeth line joins the map, because it will. What are they going to do? How are they going to squeeze in Reading out to the west on this tiny size map? I put it to you again. Is it time to ditch the pocket-sized map and just have one large map, a paper fold-up map that shows all the services for London, all the tube, all the trams, all the Crossrail, all the DLR, all the Thameslink? Hell, there's even like an idea that people have said is that in a way, Thameslink should become part of the Crossrail network and become a second Crossrail line. Could TfL take over Thameslink? That's a whole other video. But we'll do a poll in the top right-hand corner right now. A simple yes or no. Should Thameslink appear on the tube map? TfL map.